Okay. So we are now, I think almost all are here. So we are going to start our today's this gathering. And we will start with refuge and bodhicitta, holding those two minds as our main motivation to join this gathering. And also it is part of training ourselves, training our minds, all our activities of the body, speech, and mind, during the day, in the evening, or even during the sleep, to influenced by these two mental states, or motivated by these two mental states. Mind taking refuge in three jewels as a follower of the teachings of the Buddha, and also the holding the bodhicitta within the teachings of the Buddha, following the bodhisattvayana teachings, and also vajrayana teachings, to those people having these two mental states with us all the time, either very actively or in a subconscious, in a background. And that will be very, very helpful to train ourselves to have that. And if we are able to live our lives with these two minds, either very actively, consciously, or subconsciously, or when we face challenges, difficulties, and particularly when we face, what you call some kind of illnesses, life-threatening illnesses, or even when we face the death. If we face those situations with these two minds as a part of dealing the situations, or as a part of facing the what you call the being in samsara, being in this kind of unenlightened existence, that will be very, very helpful. So, as you know, and I'm sure you do this, though we can, read, we can listen, we can discuss some of those very sophisticated, very profound philosophical theories, very inspiring rituals, very, what you call the very, very inspiring, very moving, some mantra stations. Recently, I joined twice, one in Sera Mey, that is the both Sera and Mey together, and one is in Sera Mey, in the monastery where I'm the abbot. So every year, annually, they do what they call, in Tibetan, they're called Yangdup. Yangdup is wealth gathering puja. Wealth, some of you know, we have got wealth bars. So that every year need to recharge. So we have that ritual, every year, annual ritual. So, I had to join in Sera Mey because it is Sera together, and also in the Sera Mey, 3 days. Very, very tough for me because, some of you know, some of you don't know. I'm very, very, what is the right word? I don't know. yeah. Anyway, so I will not use. But what is nice is many of those tunes, melodies, and are very, very nice, very, very very chantable, and with the symbols and with the drums and with all those things. So those 3 days in Seralaji and 3 days in Sera Mey, though in terms of the duration is hours and hours, it is very tough. But because of how the prayers are chanted and the tunes, melodies, so that helped me to sustain those 6 days. So like that. But most important here, is those 2 important mental states, those 2 important, heart-filling mental states. That is the refuge, taking refuge in 3 jewels, and the altruistic awakened mind, altruistic awakened mind. And I'm sure I have said this before. One of my teachers, when I was relatively young here as a student, and quite often he will say, when I ask some of those philosophical questions, half with the joke, half real, and he will say, how's your mind taking refuge, how strong it is? Or sometimes he will say, how strong your bodhicitta is, before he answers my questions, some of those philosophical debating questions. So that those questions he asks, before answer to my questions, that is very, very significant. And there is a great reason why he was saying that. So therefore, every time in the morning, during the day, before a particular event, I always try to recall these 2 mental states, refuge and bodhicitta. Make these 2 mental states as rich as possible, as deep as as depth as from our heart, and as spontaneous as possible. Then and we will experience the benefit of the teachings of the Buddha, following the teachings of the Buddha. So it is extremely helpful to do that. So we'll start with the refuge and bodhicitta, holding those 2 minds with saying those 4 lines, and then we'll say a few times Cheristic mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, part of the expressing or sharing loving kindness, great compassion towards all living beings. That includes ourselves and our loved ones. Also part of to bring to develop single-pointed mind concentration, which is also very important, base as a base to have other mental qualities to be cultivated, to be experienced, having very stable, focused mind. So we'll do that. Then I will start reading the text that we started last Sunday. Oh, yeah. So refuge. Sanje chedan soje chonam chanju pado dane jaso che dage chenso jebe chonam je dola penje sanje chobara cho. Sanje Chöda Tsodi Chonamala Chanjo Pardo Dane Jaso Che Dage Chenso Jebe Tsonamanje Dola Penje Sanje Dobara Sho Sanje Chöda Tsodi Chonamala Chanjo Bardo Dane Jaso Che Dage Chenso Jebe Tsoma Manje Dola Penje Sanje Dobara Sho. With refuge and bodhicitta mind, now we'll say the Chenrezig mantra together. Omane Yeah. It is very helpful to remind ourselves that we have got this human existence, being born as a human being, and not just being born as a human being, due to our previous lives and this lives, the positive activities we have encountered these amazing teachings, the Buddha Dharma, and not only we have encountered the Buddha Dharma, but also we have encountered many great teachers like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, directly or while he is with us on this planet. Like that, many great teachers we have encountered, we have received teachings, advice, and so forth. And also there are many facilities, facilities to facilitate to help support our spiritual journey, such as to enhance strong refuge mind, to enhance loving kindness, to enhance the altruistic awakened mind, such as there are so many amazing texts to be read, like Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, Nagarjuna's Precious Garland, and many others. There are many, and not that difficult to understand. And so, though we may, face challenges, the physical challenges, financial challenges, what you call the family challenges, work challenges, and so forth. And that is part of the, nature of our existence. It is not something, somebody, given to us or, imposed upon us. It is part of, our current existence. And though other beings, other external circumstances may sort of may increase or may increase some of our difficulties, but the main seeds is very much there as ourselves, unenlightened existence. But though that is the case, but there are, as I just said, there are many positive things externally and internally. Ourselves, being born as a human, have the ability to understand, not just have the ability to understand, have the freedom to do that, to follow the teachings, to follow the teachers. Nobody will stop us to do that. So there are many positive things within this our samsaric existence. So every now and then to remind ourselves those positive, things that we have as a human beings, that still, within our hands, hasn't completely gone, still in our hands. While those opportunities, while those potentials are still in our hand, we should hold, we should acknowledge that, we should cherish that, we should, use that, to see as a precious, to see as a valuable. And so, yes, it is not easy, when we face those challenges, natural challenges, old age, sickness, and so forth, but we as a Dharma practitioner, we should remind ourselves those positive things that we have. That will be very, very helpful in this kind of very challenging time, and so, Oh yeah. So our reading, the text is this from the collection of Kadam Master's teachings, in this chapter 15, how to train the mind within the expanse of appearance, emptiness and empty echoes. So one of the beautiful text collection of Kadam Masters. And this one is, as we read last Sunday, I will not repeat that. This one is a dialogue between the master Atisha and one of his principal disciples, what you call the Dom. So that is, and first sort of, the 12, 15 lines are more like the, Dom asks question and Atisha answer, like it just, line by line, which is, and then the last part of this question and answer, first part of that, then, the Atisha, Dom asks Atisha, Dom asks Atisha, give me an example. Give me an example if all things and events are like illusion, like musicians, the what you call the product. Give us an example, and then example was given, that story, which are told briefly, not reading the entire text, which are told, and today, once again, briefly, touching on that earlier part, the part of that question and answer, which I didn't read all, but I'm sure you have got some copy of that text, and people who have got you, I'm sure you have. Hopefully, you have read a little bit, have done a little bit of homework. I don't know. When I was a lazy student here in the monastery, my teacher was still here. The main teacher that I received all my teachings while I'm here as a student. And some days, those days, we don't have this kind of books. Those days, very traditional, what you would call pecha, that long, individual, what you call the individual page, not binding like this. And he's very, very sharp. He has a very sharp mind. So, for example, today, when we finish the text at a certain stage, and when we finish our class, an hour and a half, then always, those long texts, we have a cover, what you call the material cover to hold together, usually yellow ones. So traditional culture, what we do, and because these are different, like for example, this is one page, this is one page. So our reading is in this part. So when teaching is finished, and then instead of closing the page completely, we will fold one of the, what you call the corner of the material on there, and then put like this, then go. So next day, when we come, some days, not some days, very often, I go exactly where I folded from the previous day's teachings. So he understands that's the sign of I haven't done my homework before coming to the class. And because he knows exactly where I folded, and he will say, oh, you haven't done any homework because I can see that your yesterday where you fold your pecha. Still, pecha is folded exactly the same. So that is, some of those amazing times when I was here as a student. So in this early part, when the question and answer, before Atisha told this beautiful story, which I summarized last Sunday, and there is this section of question. Dom asks question and Atisha, answer. And in that question and answer section, the later part of this, which I will read briefly, in that case, what is the apparition, master? what is the apparition, Master? So Tom asked to ask Atisha, in that case, in the sense earlier, the what you call the Dom asked why the attachment, aversion, are risen or occur within us. And then, the brief answer, Atisha said, it is because of self-grasping of all things and events. And then, the Atisha, then why do we have this self-grasping? How we have this self-grasping? What is this self-grasping? Then Atisha told, it is because, we perceive, we grasp, we sort of hold the things and events have some kind of true entity as they are, though they are like illusion, though they are like magician's product, but we don't see that kind of, what you call that kind of, nature. So that is what here, in that case, refers to that earlier. People who have read, you will notice. What is an apparition? I think apparition, Master. So then the Atisha answered, Dom. It is the portrayal of diverse things through being unreal. So this is what here in Tibetan, what it says is, I will go to Tibetan. Gyumatuba shindalap, Gyumenilu chidarla, Dom Adadi, Tuba Timare, Ona te Pungtam Chadanto, Gyumetuba shindalap, Gyumenilu chidarla, Dom Adanegi. So to reduce attachment and aversion when we encounter things and events, then the Atisha said we should think all things and events are like illusion. Like illusion. And that is what here, then they ask, what is the illusion? What is illusion? To see all things and events as an illusion. And what is illusion? How illusion arises, or illusion, or the, magician's product, whatever they produced, how that arises. And then here, it says it arises through the magician's, whatever he or she, trick our minds, and that illusion arises through that trick, through that trick, and that is what here, and this, the last part of the question, miden shindu semansin. So then it says, we perceive things and events like children when they perceive magicians, the product as a real. We don't see things and events, all those, what we encounter in our lives, to the sense consciousnesses or to the mental consciousness. Whatever encounter, we don't see them, as a illusion. We see them, we treat them, we believe them as what you call the children who don't have capacity to understand the magician's product as a real or not. So that is what here this this last question, which is saying, it says this, Dom. It is grasped as a sign, though being unreal. And then Dom asks, saying, do please tell me an example of an illusion. So that is our last Sunday's that story that continue from this. So now going back to the story that we are told briefly that those two good friends, and one is good musician, and the other one is quite poor, not that clever, and then musician wants to help his poor friends, but he wasn't that interested because he wants simple life. But then that is the story which we told. Now the summary of story, before we move to today's our discussion, summary of story is that man, that poor out of those two, that poor man who has family, by the trick of his friends, he experienced quite dramatic things, losing entire his existing family, his wife, his children. Then he had a completely new family in a completely isolated island. There he got all new family, got a new wife, got 3 children. Then again, he lost all his 3 children, and then that is the story. And while he sort of experiencing that, he spent his life with the second family in that island and lost all his children. And then he suffered a lot. Then he pulls his hair, and then when he pulled out of desperation, he pulls his hair and he look at some piece of hairs on his hand. He look at his hairs are completely gray, though he's very young before, but when he look at his hairs are very gray. So he was in that situation. Then he sort of his friends, the magic whatever trick is fading away. Then he come out from there. But when he come out from there, from that trick, then he wasn't sure where what happened to him. And when he come out from there, so that up to there I told the story. Now from there, when he come out from the trick, then of course he is still in his old place, and his wife was singing while she was washing the dish, and his children were playing outside, and so he was very confused what happened to him. He thought his wife, the first wife, hasn't sort of got any sympathy what happened to him, because he was singing, she was singing, and then he told his wife, didn't you feel sad because I was absent all these years? And she said, no, because you are here. And then suddenly his friends came. His friend said, who tricked him, he said, oh, I haven't seen you a long time. How are you? Though he was just next to him, because he tricked that. So he told all the story, what he had experienced. Told all the experience. But then his wife and his friends start to tell him, that's not true. That's not true, because you are just making your string to sell to the to the village. It is still there. They are still there. Strings are. Your wife was washing the dishes. She was still doing that. So he was really, really confused. He said, no, I had a long, many years with this family. I had the children and so on and so forth. So now, then he started to feel when these two, his wife and his friend, start to tell, what he had experienced, that's not, real. That's not really true. When they start to tell and they start to point it out, look, you are making just, few minutes ago, you are just making the string and the strings are still there. And he got this doubt. So that is our today's main discussion. And that is here in the text, on page, people who have that page, page 282, page 282. So, 62, page 282 in English. I want to just read a few words which I just said. So, in his grief, he tore out his hair and saw that all of his hair had turned white. Anguished he felt. So that is while he was still in that trip, going through all those experiences. And after a while reached his homeland, back to his homeland. When he went to his house and looked round, he saw his first wife singing a song, and then quotation, "Are you still basking in the sun?" She said, "I haven't finished washing the dishes yet." On seeing this, something snapped deep within his heart. So he completely in Tibetan, he thought his wife hasn't got any sympathy in losing him all these years. So he felt that snap in that sense. He snapped deep within his heart. Oh, how much I have suffered. So that is what he, he's saying to his wife. I've been lost for so long, and you didn't even come to search for me once. Listen to how melodious your song is. You have not grieved in the least. Instead of being overjoyed at my return. So these are the really nice to look at. This, when we, though it seems this is like a story, like a somewhat, story and story in the sense, within the magician's trick. But this is also something what we can apply to our daily lives. What we experience, joys, happiness, sadness, difficulties. To that man, while he was in that trick, he experienced all those hardship, losing his, first wife, children, getting into new place, completely lost, and meeting new family, raising 3 children, losing everything, like in our dream. When we have dream, either joyful or difficult dream, during the period of that dream, for us it is real. It is happening real. So this is what here the story which is continuing. So which I briefly told you in a summary, and then which is important part of that I would like to read is, I will not read all those. In the next page 283, it says, then it occurred to Sera, that's the man who got in that difficulty. It seems that what she says is true, and I have been deluded about all of this. So when his wife and when his friends start to point it out, look, you are working earlier, making string. And look, I was cleaning the dishes. And when she and his friends start to point out, then he start to feel the, what I have experienced, all these, having new family, this might be the, delusion. My mind might be, tricked or not in the right condition. So that is the doubt. And that doubt is very, very important one. For us, unless if we have doubt, what we see, what we experience, what we believe, these are as we see or as we believe, or their existence has a different face or different nature. Unless if we have a doubt, we will not understand the ultimate nature of those things and events. In other words, we will not understand the emptiness nature of those things and events. Unless if we have doubt. So that is until that the man start to feel, start to think, oh, I might be deluded. My wife, my friend saying this, pointing this are true. I might be deluded. What I've gone through, all this, having new family. Until that happens, he is going through, believing these are as it happened, as he had experienced, as they are. There's not, these are real in the sense. So this is what he said. It seems that what she says, she refers to his first wife, is true, and I have been deluded about all of this. Then he got another question. But it is impossible to be deluded for so many years. That's what we have. Not just years, from those great master Nagarjuna, Buddha, and those great masters' point of view. We are all the time mistaken. All the time, from for many lifetimes, all the time we hold this mistaken perception, mistaken, the mental state, which is called fundamental ignorance. That is what here. That's what here. So we say, oh, it is, But it is impossible to be deluded for many years. Not just in terms of the time, but also you will see later. Then it says, my 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, were born. How that could be deluded, that they were born. And then says, I saw their death and their disappearance. A year is compressed of 12 months. And there are 360 days. So in terms of the time's point of view, years means 12 months, each month 4 weeks, and like how that can be possible to delude, to misunderstand in that kind of long period of time, or in that real object. 3 children were born and they passed away. How that could be possible in terms of the object, time and so forth. How can the suffering of single day be felt across such a span of time? If I deluded in this short period of time, how it is possible to have that sort of thing? So these are really something very, very relevant for us to think, because we have this strong belief, because constantly, continuously, by ourselves, by culture, by society, by language, by thought, reinforced. Things exist as they appear to us. That really reinforced again and again and again. Because of that, we don't, even if we ask question, how it is possible I get mistake to my sense of identity, I, which has been with me all these years since beginningless time. How it is possible I get mistake once or twice or 3 times. How it is possible to get mistake all the time in terms of the time. How it is possible, what I'm going through is not true as I believe, as I've experienced. It is not just once, it is not just twice, whole my life, 65 years. Isn't it? That is what we have in our head. It might be possible just once I got mistake. I perceived them mistakenly. But how? Again and again and again. And society work in that way. And the language work in that way. And reinforce. This is how it is. This is how, so on and so forth. So that is here, which is very, perhaps my wife is deceiving me after all. And this line is very powerful for me. When I preparing this a few days ago, and this Buddha and the subsequent Buddhist teachers, for example, historical Buddha Gautama in Panchaparamita Sutra, and many of us know within the Panchaparamita Sutra, we know Heart Sutra. In the Heart Sutra, no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factor, no form, no ear, no eye, no, And it goes on and on and on and on, and until reach no attainment, no attainment. But we just carry on. Oh, yeah. That is here. That is here. This, when it says, perhaps my wife is deceiving me. Or the Buddha said, there's no intrinsic form. There's no intrinsic feeling. But I have feeling. I have form. Buddha may not be true what Buddha had said. Like that. That is something, important for us, because our self-grasping, this grasping the things and events have some kind of entity as they are in and of themselves. That kind of grasping is true, a very, very, very strong, deep-rooted our psyche. Difficult to change that kind of perception. And here, even his wife is telling him, but he's still, saying, perhaps my wife is deceiving me after all. With this, he went to check the spinning yarn, seeing that it still lay outside the door. He overcame his doubts. So this, his checking, that is important. Another important, the part of the story. We have to, as His Holiness Dalai Lama says very often, he says very often, we must, analyze, investigate what we see, what we hear, what we touch, what we believe, whether they exist as that we believe. He's all the time, he says, analytical mind is important. And here, this line, he says, with this, he went to check the spinning yarn. So that what he was making. And he making sure what his wife is telling him is true or not. He went to check by himself. He overcame his doubts. And then he said, after several days passed, his friend, the skilled magician, came by. I haven't seen you for many years. He felt sad about this. So I came to see you today. Where did you go? He asked the magician. He knows exactly what he has done to his friends. But he asked, where did you go? He asked. Once Sera Mey had recounted the past event, the skilled magician replied. So this latter part, the reply lines are really, really important to read and to think. This is what you call in Tibetan Buddhism, when the teachings are given, there are several different ways to give teachings. One is called nyongti. Nyongwa is experience. Ti means, teach. Teaching through experience. So the teacher who teach the subject through his or her experience, not just that he or she knows the text, not just he or she understands the text, but out of his or her experience. this quite often have this, when that kind of teachings are given, in the past, not these days, it seems not happening that much, but in the past, what in Tibetan we have expression is this, Geva Sangbu tu. Geva Sangbu means when, when the auspicious time, or when the times are, or auspicious time, in other words, everything is nice, have lots of time, not stress out from the external burden. You have lots of, so that is those days. Then when the teachings are given, particularly the style of teaching, Nongti, teach out of experience from the teacher, then it seems they don't teach entire text once. They just teach few lines or one or two particular topic. Then let student go to really, do the meditation, do the, training. And then when the students get some experience, real experience from his or her, heart, then go back to the teacher and then, express what had experienced from the teachings. So this part, the answer when it says skilled musician replied. So this part is really very much like that kind of teachings out of experience. So the person who went through that trick, magician's trick, in his mind, the sufferings, the challenges that he went through are very, very fresh, very, very fresh, very, very, they're, like unbearable that he went. So they are very there in the front of, in front of his mind. At that time when you teach. And that is why very often, in the Buddhist teachings, talking about the nature of samsara very often, though I know I'm not criticizing you people. You are my best friends, but Westerners don't like that much to hear the sufferings. But it is the real, what you call the ignition key when in our mind, within our mind, if we have a very, this strong feeling of nature of being in samsara, being under the thumb of attachment, aversion, and ignorance. When we have that kind of very raw feeling, that kind of unbearable feeling, as long as I'm under the thumb of attachment, aversion, and ignorance, there's no such as real joy to be experienced. There's no such as real happiness to be experienced. That kind of very raw feeling should be there, that really teachings to sink in and then really do the what you call the real practice. And that is what here the situation is clearly illustrated, clearly explained. All phenomena are tricks of illusion. Chanam Jume Luti. So it is not saying somebody, sort of trick all phenomena, all things in events, appear in a different phase, different aspects, though their nature is different. But it is due to, for example, when nowadays there are many powerful tools to look at the details of the atoms, details of the or the sequence of the times, and so on and so forth, which our sense consciousnesses do not have the power to see all those subtle detail or the quick sequential. It is because of the nature of that, how things, events, come into being, come into existence. It is not somebody punished to appear things in events in a different aspect than how they are. It is how things and events come into being, come into existence. It is their conventional nature. But we don't, what you call the cautions. That is our mistake. That is our mistake. And this is what I think His Holiness Dalai Lama is very keen to talk a lot with, associated with the modern scientists, because usually, generally speaking, scientists are quite open-minded and they want to ask lots of questions. They don't accept, face value. I use particular word here. Generally speaking, that word is very important. It is same to the practitioner, Buddhist practitioner. Generally speaking, Buddhist practitioners are this. So that doesn't mean all Buddhist practitioners are like that. So that is important. So all phenomena are tricked of illusion. Tricked of illusion. So in Tibetan, what's that? Oh yeah. Nothing is. Person. Lord and Dawa. Chenam Gyomashin to Tom. Chenam Gyomelo la. Chenam Gyomelo la. Dembar Gyowa Jiang Mei. So the next line. Nothing is substantially real. So this word substantially real. So it has related to the previous line, tricked of illusion. These two have a very strong connection. In the previous line, it says all phenomena are tricks of illusion, and that line follows, nothing is substantially real. Substantially real. Sometimes another term is used, intrinsically real or inherently real. Those are the words which can be interchangeable: substantially, intrinsically, inherently. So now, look at from our own, how we believe, how we think, how we perceive the things and events, in our daily lives. And here, that is the really, we have to talk that nothing is substantially real. Do we have that kind of belief? Everything what we encounter in daily life, substantially real? Here it's saying nothing is substantially real, but how we see them, how we treat them, how we deal them. If something is joyful, if something is fearful, if something is, how we deal with them. That is here. And like Nagarjuna and those great Indian masters, they say, we have a deep sort of, the term that they use is innate belief that the things and events that we encounter in our daily lives, whether they are joy, happiness, fulfillment, sad, disappointment, or whatever, we have an innate belief they have some kind of substantial real as a joy to be cherished, to be held on, to be preserved, and so on and so forth. There's a suffering, disappointment to be discarded. Some kind of substantially there, real, there in and of itself, that should be discarded, get rid of. Now think about that story. The story, the man who is, at that island, selflessness island, and he was starting new family and going through years raising 3 children and so on and so forth. For him, real family, real island, and start new real family. As earlier we saw, he said, born 3 children all these years. Real in the sense, for him, that is real because there's a pain, there's a joy. Also real in the sense, there's something, he couldn't, because while he was in that magician's trick, he couldn't understand he is in that trick, under that magician's magic spell. He couldn't understand that. And that's real, isn't it? So that's really here is important. Nothing is substantially real. So when we look at I am desperately, searching to attain, to experience enlightenment. That I, how we perceive that I, very, very important one, as many of you know. The most important, particularly in the early stage, the most important things to understand this kind of subject, this kind of topic that we are discussing, whether they are substantially real or not, is the I, the self, the individual, taking refuge, practicing bodhicitta, wants to be free from samsara. That I. If we manage to really, sort it out, nature of that I, particularly the topic that we are discussing, its appearance and its reality, to really able to sort it out, then others are quite, as some of you, I'm sure you have heard from me, saying this when I was a young boy here and also with my family. Those days we have to work in the field. The main income was growing corn, maize, corn. And to grow, have a good harvest, you have to utilize those very chemical, fertilizer. And those chemical fertilizer coming from long distance and a very tough, what you call the bag, mainly, all those. And the opening where they're sold by the machine, at the top. So to really, what you call to open that bag, you should have 50 kilos or 25 kilos. To open that bag, you have to be very clever to get the right end of the string, where to start. Once you really know how to get that right end of that string, and if you pull that, just one pull, entire bag will be open without any struggle. Some of you know this, and many of I don't know. I have this experience because I still have this image in my head, because a young boy, fascinating doing that, because particularly when in the monastery, so there are, the many bags to open. So young boy, that is one of our job, to really open. But sometimes big trouble, because when we open, we get the string. The string is very good for us to doing some playing things. But sometimes we get trouble from the elder monks, because we open too many bags, but they couldn't use so at the end of the day, there are so many bags open, but then don't know how to resolve. So the big trouble. So those are my image. So like that. Once we really understand appearance and empty nature of I, this is the appearance of I, this is empty nature of I, then all other are very much like that thread sold by those machines, and very, very useful. And that is also many great masters have suggested. If we had a confusion, if we have the what you call the ignorance to all things and events, then where should I start? I'm mistaken to this, I'm mistaken to that, I'm mistaken to, relation to this, substantial real, I'm mistaken to substantial real, my mobile, my computer, my book, my glasses, my body. Where should I start? And those great masters have said, start from the I, the self. And it makes sense. It really makes sense. And that is where everything starts, and also everything, come back to that I, or the self. If we get that correct, how it is, then not that difficult. Okay. Then it's called, nothing is substantially real. So here it is important to understand. It is not saying all things and events are illusion. Sometimes people get that kind of impression. That's not the case. All things and events are like illusion. That word is important, like illusion. Or if we really want to say that all things and events are illusion, then we need to explain being as an illusion. That explanation should be very, very, very clear. Otherwise, that may cause us to believe, therefore, all things and events do not exist. That is not the case. That's not the case. So this is really something important. Pusum lani matongme luigi jowa kanglasi komyang komkang samyang tarin yusam shigya songay. So this is now then followed a little bit more, the asking, that kind of analyzing, examining, and that they're saying, following the lines. You never saw your 3 children and their mother. So you never saw in the sense, substantially, inherently. That's what here. So how could there have been even physical contact? You have never left with even a single step. So how could you have reached a far-off land? Not even a brief moment have passed. So how could you have suffered for many years? So these are the questions, which is again very important questions we need to ask. This is like having like a dialogue between the 2 friends, but it is also dialogue within ourselves. This is relation to the previous, the starting from that section. All phenomena are tricks of illusion. Nothing is substantial. And those 2 lines, then follows all that questions. Okay. Then was the so then more this. The suffering of samsara is just like that. The suffering of samsara is just like that. Though seemingly real, it is just like your experience. So what we experience, in the Four Noble Truths Sutra, when Buddha taught Four Noble Truths, his first teaching, in the section where he go a list of suffering, and at the end of that list, there are 2 lines. He says, in brief, do you remember that people who have studied that Four Noble Truths, that short sutra? He said, in brief, I can't remember exactly the word, but he is saying in brief, encountering that you don't want to encounter is suffering. And not encountering what you want to encounter is suffering. That is what Buddha said. And those 2 lines really captured the entire nature of samsara, relation to ourselves. Not saying outside, but to ourselves. That's what we go through as a samsaric beings. We constantly encounter something that we don't want to encounter. Sometimes, by nature of having this body, these days I'm struggling to have a good sight. During the day, very often I just go have a little bit of rest, going around or walk on the top of the monastery, and I have an amazing view. I can see all sides of the monastery, but it's difficult to see very details and difficult to recognize the individual monks down there. Although I can see the figures, I can see the heads and hands, but not all the details of the face and all those things. That is, because of aging, which I don't want, but that is there, So that is, but that, here it says, the suffering of samsara is just like that. Though seemingly real, that's real for me. Unable to see very precisely, all the details of that down there is real. Seemingly real, it is just like your experience. So, like in the dream, when I dream certain things, like that, it's real during the dream. Though you have wandered long for eons, this wandering is like the year you have felt. Aging is like the white hair on your white hair on your head. So that is when he was very, very sort of sad and pulling his hairs at that during that when he felt he lost all his 3 children and desperate is pull, and he found out a bunch of his hairs in his hand and all are turned into gray. And here says white. That's Tibetan translation. We say white, not gray. But in English, you have a nice word, gray. So, like that. And that's real gray color. Youth is like the death of your, the illusory children. Enemies are like that hostile river. Your friends and families are like the old woman. He's talking about to his experience while he was in that island. Sunrise and sunset are like your arrival there. They are like this, grasped as real when they are not. So now, when we talk about, say, the illusion, or that person, while he was in that magician's trick, he had a real experience of having new family. He had no ability to differentiate his previous wife and this one. Previous wife is his first wife, second was his second wife. He has no ability to say second wife is in that trick, not real. So we are in a very much in that situation with regard to what we see, what we feel, what we believe, all the things and events, including that we are striving to experience enlightenment, isn't it? So that is something to think about, to really to think about, to ask that sort of questions again and again, really that, which we haven't reached today, that when that man start to doubt what he had experienced and what his wife and his friend is telling different, when he started to feel doubt, which is real, my experience or what they are telling me, that is, we have to reach that stage. Then we can make progress to experience emptiness. Currently, our experience of things and events are very much at the appearance level, not in the emptiness level. Because the text is here, title is, as we know, within the how to train the mind within the expanse of appearance emptiness. So we have to look at how can we bring this, from the experience of appearances to the understanding of emptiness. Yeah. Okay, so we are going to leave here today, and so as I just briefly touched on earlier, because I have this need to go to Dharamsala, and I have checked the place where I'm going to stay, because next Sunday, Sunday afternoon, I will arrive at Dharamsala, and that place I've checked, they say they have a good internet connection. So if they have a good internet connection, I'm going to lead this class from Dharamsala. But I will let you know, I don't trust that much, when they say yes, internet, particularly when it comes to internet. So if internet is not good, because I'm traveling quite early morning from Bangalore, so I'll reach there, latest 2 in the afternoon. So I will know by myself. So I will let Tree and Peter know. So you can just check whether they have announced or not. So if the internet is good, because that evening I'm free, so I'm going to lead that class to continue. But if the internet is not good, then I'm coming back on arriving here 2nd of December, and that Sunday, if I have some other commitment, but I think I can do that Sunday. But anyway, so we will continue this, and today we are going to leave it here. Okay. So shall we say 21 Tara prayers and the dedications? Om Geshe Ma Pama Droma La Cha Se Cha Se Droma Nyuma Pa Mo Jine Geje Lo Da Ta Ma Chikden Songwe Chuji She Ji Kesa Che Wa Le Ne Jom Cha Se Tongge Da Wa Gun Do Kawa Jene Zibe She Le Kama Tongda Soba Nama Ji Rabdo Chewe Rabaram Changze Sengwe Chone Je Peme Changne Nambara Je Chenpa Zundu Katu She Wa Seba Samden Chu Nyem Changze Teishin Shebe Zu Toro Taye Nambara Jawa Che Malu Paro Jimba Tobe Jawe Seji Shindu Dem Changze Duda Rahon Yege Duda Chota Namka Kam Jiten Dombo Shabji Nende Leba Meba Guba Nem Changze Jajin Mela Tsangpa, Longla Naso Wangju Che, Jumbo Rola Tisa Namanta, Nujun Soji Dune De, Changze Jeje Chadang Peji, Paru Chugo Rabdo Jom, Yegon Yejan Shabdi Nende, Meba Chuba Shindo Baram, Changze Turi Jipa Chenbo, Deje Pao Nambara Jom, Chöje Shene Chonye Tenze, Dao Tamje Malu Se, Changze Kunjo Sumze Chaje, Seme Toga Nambara Je, Malu Choje Kolo Jembe, Rangje Weje Sonam Che, Changze Rabdo Gawa Jebe, Ujin Weje Tenwa Be, Sheba Rabshe Tuta Rai, Dudan Jigden Wangdu Ze, Changze Sashi Chongwe Tso Nama, Tamje Guba Nima Nyem, Chonye Yewa Yige Hongi, Pongba Tamje Nambara Dro, Changze Dawe Dombu Oyen, Jemba Tamje Shindo Para, Rebe Chone Oba Mele, Tabara Shindo Veroze, Changze Kebe Tama Me Tara, Barwe Chengwe Wine Yejang Yungum Kune Koroke, Daye Pungne Nambara Jom, Changze Sashi Ngola Chake, Terje Nujin Shakti Tong, Chonye Chenze Yige Honge, Rinpa Tumbo Namne Ge, Changze Tema Kema Shema, Nyangen Deshin Chu Nyem, Soa Omda Yangda Denbe, Dipa Chenpo Chompa Nyem, Changze Kune Korava Kave, Daye Lune Nambara Kem, Yige Chube Ngane Kwebe, Ripa Hongle Choma Nyem, Changze Turi Shamne Dabe, Honge Nabe Sabe Nyem, Rera Menda Ratang Biche, Jigden Sumna Yewa Nyem, Changze Lai Soyi Nabe, Reta Tajen Chana Nam, Tara Niju Peji Yike, Dena Malu Pane Sem, Changze Lai Sonam Jebo, Tata Miyam Jedem, Gwene Goja Gawa Jeje, Zeda Melum Ngenpa Sem, Changze Nima Dawa Jebe, Jinyi Bola Rab Sem, Hara Niju Dudara Ye, Shindo Chakwe Rimne Sem, Changze Tini Sumnam Gube, Shiwe Tudan Yangda Dem, Dudan Rona Nujun So Nama, Jomba Turi Rabcho Nye, Sawe Ngaji Deba Deta, Changze Wane Nishu Tsaje. Gewa Di Jiwo Gen, Sanama Yishe Soto Shen, Sanama Yishe Le Chungwe, Tamba Kunyi Tobara Sho, Changju Semcho Rinpoche, Maje Panama Jeju Che, Jeba Nyamba Meba Yang, Kone Kondo Pewara Sho, Kangri Rave Korwe Shinkamade, Pendan Dewa Malu Jungwe Ne, Chenre Sewa Tenzin Jaso Ye, Shabe Sede Pato Tenjuro Che. Oh yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you, Geshe. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.